It's time to start installing our Nitrous Express system on Project Country Club, so stick around. What is going on, everybody? As always, I want to start off by thanking all the new subscribers out there, all the likes that you're throwing my way, and anybody who is taking the time to participate and comment. Also, for everybody that shows up to the live show on Thursday night, 8 Eastern, man, you guys are the greatest. We always have a good time, so if you have not checked it out, check it out if you get a chance. That being said, if for some reason that you are not a subscriber to the Goat Rope Garage already, click that button down there, ring that bell. You don't want to miss out on any awesome content like we're bringing you today, in which we install our Nitrous Express system. That being said, I've got to give a huge shout out to the guys over at Nitrous Express for sponsoring the channel, hooking us up with an awesome dry kit to tie back to our Holley Terminator ECU. And so today we are going to dive in and start looking at what we need to do to run our lines, mount our bottle, get our solenoids in place, and just kind of go through the basics of installation for a nitrous kit. So make sure and stick around. Okay, for our installation, we have some considerations that we want to keep in mind. One of the big ones is if you are mounting your bottle inside the cabin of your vehicle, please be safe and use a blowdown tube. That way, if for some reason you pop the rupture disc on this thing, it will vent outside of the cab of your vehicle. That is a big safety precaution. And if you're racing and you have this mounted inside the car and you do not have that, you will not pass tech. So keep that in mind. The second one is we're going to have enough hose, but it's never a bad idea to stretch this out along the length of your car. Get your game plan ahead of time of where you're going to end up having your nozzle that you need to tie into, and then where you're going to mount things like your solenoid and purge setup up front. That being said, we will touch on that next. First, though, we are going to worry about bottle mounting. And there's basically there is a pickup tube that's going to go down in here, and it is ideally set up to where it comes down and then angles towards the back of the bottle or away from the label. So if you are mounting it in a way where it is this direction, you're going to want the label up. Now, if you are going sideways, like I'm going to have to do, you need to keep in mind of where that tube is and then rotate your bottle with the label towards the front at a 45-degree angle. And that will put the pickup tube back here. That way, whenever you're accelerating, the liquid will pool where the pickup tube is going to get as much liquid as possible to get it up to our solenoid. So no matter how you do it, make sure that you are doing it properly to keep that tube submerged. Even if you're in a setup for some reason where you can mount your bottle straight up and down, remember that the pickup tube is facing away from the label. Face the label towards the front. That way you're getting all of your gas. So that being said, mounting the brackets, that's going to be the important part that we do next. We need to strap the bottle in a way that we can easily get the bottle in and out of the vehicle. We do have the V-band clamp style setups on here, so that needs to be taken into account. But the nice thing about it is these clamps have enough flexibility where you can basically just undo them, pull the whole bottle straight out the top. So that shouldn't be much of a problem. The other thing we need to look at is what's underneath what we're drilling through to make sure that we're not going to hit anything. I have a really good idea because I've already done a battery trunk remote install in here that there is an exhaust under here, a muffler, but it is about 6 to 8 inches below here. I need to drill some holes big enough to get through there. And then over here, I have a cubby in which my hydraulic pump for my convertible top is. And we will go down through this cubby, find a spot through the fiberglass that we can punch a hole and route it to the front. Now, be aware that some of these hoses you can get that will have like a Teflon coating on the outside that makes them basically where they're not going to rub through any wires. This one does not. The area that I'm running it should not be an issue, but I do have some extra wire loom, so I'm probably going to throw some nylon wire loom over this just to protect this and anything it may come in contact with. The idea, I think, of where I'm going to run this is up through the rocker panel like I do most of the wiring on the passenger side. We'll run it up through the driver's side rocker panel. We'll secure it where appropriate, make sure it's out of the way from any heat, any kind of moving objects, things like that. And that way we don't have to worry about getting pinched, broken, or rubbing against something else and causing a short. So keep that in mind whenever you're doing this. Okay, we have the general area of where we want to go ahead and install our bottle. And Nitrous Express says for your bottle mounts, the back bracket, the lower bracket, you want to have that about 2 inches from the end of the bottle. So we have plenty of room between our battery mounting location. And if we were to go 2 inches back from the back of the bracket here, we're going to have plenty of room there. Then you want the front bracket to be about 7 inches in front of that for a 10-pound bottle. So if we're looking there, we're going to want to mount this one right in this approximate area. There's instructions for a 15-pound bottle in the kit that came with your setup. So check those out for the 15. It's about 12 inches out for a 15-pound bottle. So what I'm going to do right now is go ahead and mark my locations for the back bracket. Drill those out and then measure 7 inches out from those locations so I can get my front ones. Okay, I've got my holes marked. I've got an appropriately sized drill bit. I'm going to go ahead and drill holes. Now, as I said, before you go through the process of drilling your holes, make sure you get underneath, make sure there's no wires, fuel lines, fuel tanks, anything that you can damage by drilling through. Luckily, all I have down here is a muffler, and I have more than ample clearance for the length of drill bit that I was using. Now, that being said, the bolts that came with my brackets are not going to be long enough. I'm going to go ahead and vacuum this up real quick, get the brackets temporarily mounted, and then we will start running the nitrous line to the front. Okay, here's a great opportunity for you to see what I'm talking about using wire loom. This is 1/2-inch nylon wire loom. Don't buy this stuff at your auto parts store. They charge way too much for it. Go on Amazon. You can get like 100 foot of this stuff for like $12. 1/2 inch is perfect. Gives it a nice extra layer of protection, and it makes it black, so it's a little bit more stealth. Now, that being said, before you run your hose, make sure and cover the ends with tape. Grab some electrical tape. Just toss it over the end. You don't want to get anything in this hose because this is something that we're going to be injecting into our intake tract. So this is just an extra little step of precaution to make sure, and then whenever we're done, we will go ahead and blow some air through with the air compressor through the hose to clear it out just in case. On top of it, you're going to have some excess slack whenever you're done. So take that into consideration whenever you run this. I want the excess slack to be in the back where I can hide it in this cubby where the hydraulic pump is. So I'm going to start from the front where I want to mount my solenoid and then pull the excess to the back. Actually, I'm going to pull it from the back to the front. That way the excess is already in the back. So I'm going to get the side of the car jacked up in the air now. I'm going to go ahead and pull it. I'm not going to bother showing you that part of it. It's pretty straightforward, but I will jump back in with the camera as soon as I get it pulled. Okay, the line has been ran. I still have it taped off. We're not going to purge it until we're ready to hook everything up. So before we get started on the solenoid, a couple tips. One, whenever you are running your zip ties, if you're having a hard time getting around corners or something, go ahead and pre-bend this thing in a couple spots. Just try to keep it beyond where you're going to actually clip it off. But this will help you hook it around mounts, bolts, things like that, so you can secure your line up out of the way. The other thing is going to be on your fittings for your solenoid. The MPT fittings that go into the solenoid require Teflon, whether it's liquid or Teflon tape. Now, if you're using Teflon, the rule of thumb is you want 2 wraps around it and you want 2 threads showing from the tip. That way you're keeping Teflon out of the end of the connection. A lot of people will say that you need to use liquid Teflon, but I'm telling you right now, if you do this correctly, it will work perfectly fine. This is how we do it in the Air Force working on fighter jets, and if it's good enough for a fighter jet, it's probably good enough for Cadillac XLR. So that being said, let's dive underneath the hood and find a place to mount up the solenoid and purge solenoid. Okay, now that I got my bracket bent how I want it, I'm going to kind of mock this thing up here, put it where I want it, and mark it. And I want it right about there. That should give me clearance everywhere I need clearance. Maybe move it forward just a tad. And so we're going to go right about here. I'm going to mark it a couple spots, and I'm going to use rivets to mount this thing with washers on there. Give it a nice clean look. See if I can get my drill in it from up here. Gotta love fiberglass. Throw a washer on the rivet like so. And make sure that our hole's big enough to get the rivet in. Just want to be big enough. There we go. Perfect. That's going to pull down nice and tight. And let's go ahead and get her kind of positioned out here. There's the first one. And we're going to put the second one right beside it. We'll get a little overlap with the washers, but that's all right. Bingo. So that being said, let me grab the screws to mount this. And there we're going to have our nicely mounted solenoids out of the way. Might have to actually come down a smidge to clear the hood, but the nice thing is we can massage the bracket as need be to get all the clearance that we need. And go ahead and grab an offset ratchet here. There we go. We're mounted up. So now let's go ahead and jump into the back. Let's purge this unit out, purge the line out, so we can go ahead and hook our lines up. You can see I've got my tray up on this setup. This determines whether or not the top can go down, and this is still a little bit loose because I have to get the longer bolts, but you can see I've got almost perfect clearance. In fact, I can rotate this clamp over so it's not touching. That's what I'll end up doing. But since it's not permanently installed, you can see I've got that one backwards. But for now, we want to go ahead and purge the line out. Let's pull our electrical tape off, and you can see there's fiberglass all over this. This is why we put electrical tape on it in the first place. And we're not looking to push a lot of air through there. Just give it a couple short blasts to push air through, make sure it's clear, then we can go ahead and hook it up. These are flared fittings. These do not require any kind of sealant. They seal face to face. Grab your wrench, give her a nice snug tug. That's all it takes. Okay, so that is the mechanical part of the installation for the most part. In the next video, we're going to touch on installing the jet, taking it over to the solenoid, finishing out the purge kit, and getting the intake side of everything dialed in. After that, we're going to do a video on all of the wiring. In this case, hooking it back to the standalone system. So if you have not subscribed already, make sure and go ahead and do that. And as always, huge shout out to Nitrous Express for sponsoring this channel, this video segment, and all of the features to come where we explore putting nitrous on Project Country Club. You guys know the drill. Hit up the comments down below. Any questions, check out all the links. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning.